Hello everyone, I'm here today with part two of a flip through of my Iceland album. Now, this is where I left off on part one. The interesting thing is that when I started this album, I thought I was going to do process videos for nearly every layout. However, that did not turn out to be the case. I ended up doing one process video. And it's not because I didn't want to, it's because I put this album together so quickly that it just happened so fast that I didn't really have time to stop and say, "Oh wait, let me record all these." Um, I actually had after the holidays, I had 3 full days off of work: Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and so I started working on this, and it just came together so quickly that I was almost done. And then that Saturday, so last weekend, I went to scrap with a friend, and I was able to finish the last couple of layouts that I had. So it was already done. So I apologize that I didn't do, any more process videos, but it's a good thing that it came together so quickly. So this is where we left off with the last one, if you've watched it, and we were just kind of exploring the streets of Reykjavik and doing some shopping, and so we continue on with that here. So this side is just a lovely street view. And then I wanted to include a receipt from some of the shopping that we did. So that is in here too. It's kind of hard to read because the ink was a little bit faded on there. But one thing I want to point out is if you are planning to visit Iceland, they do not use the euro. They use the Icelandic kroner, which is otherwise known as ISK, I-S-K. And the way you tell how much you're spending or what the conversion is when you look at this number, put a decimal between the 8 and the 0. So there will be 2 zeros after it. You're going to put your decimal in front of that. So I spent $18 on something, $14 on something, and then here is my total. So they make it pretty easy to figure out the conversion, and you're going to be close. So that's helpful. This is just a pocket card that I made myself. I already had this background. I just put an epoxy sticker on there, a little arrow sticker, called it good. And then this just was a fun Viking statue that was outside one of the shops, and we liked it, and so I thought I am going to put that on there just because it was a little bit of fun and whimsy that day. The opposite page here, very, very simple. So you can see that this is the same street as this. It's just one is a more narrow view going vertically. This is a wider view going horizontally. And I just loved the colors that were in these buildings, so I wanted to make sure I really featured that. So I put that in as a 4x6. And then this card, I think it's either from A Beautiful Mess or it might be Studio Calico, but I've had it for a while. And because of the way it looks, kind of this tritone, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I have all these blues in these Iceland pictures, so I thought, well, here's the perfect chance to use it. So I put it in here because it matches the buildings here. And all I did was put a wood veneer on there. That's it. So this was a super easy side of the layout. And then I tried something new with this layout. I haven't done this before. When I was in Iceland, I heard this song, and it was in Icelandic, so I couldn't understand it. Well, the one word I understood was Reykjavik, obviously. But I thought, well, I'm going to look that up when I get home. And so it means Miss Reykjavik. And I printed out some of the lyrics in Icelandic and then in English so that I can refresh myself on what it means. And I just happened to have this little phrase here. So it worked out perfectly. And I really like having it in there because I actually loaded this onto my iTunes. So it's on my phone. And every time I listen to it, it takes me back to Iceland. I just love it. So I'm so glad that I found a way to incorporate that. And then after we did our shopping stuff over here, we went to the Harpa. And this is something that when I was researching what to do in Iceland, this was at the top of everybody's list pretty much for doing stuff in the city. So this is like their concert hall, and they have a conference center in there. They do a lot of classical type musical performance, but they do other things in there as well. But here's the real draw, from the outside at least, is the architecture. Look at that glass. It's so beautiful the way that it's done. And so down here I just included some info on who the architects were, the designers, how they came up with this, a quote about what their goals were and what they wanted to achieve with the architecture, and I think they did that. So that's all down here. And then this is a slightly different view. This is shooting upwards from the base of the building. So I wanted to include that as well. And then I happen to have several sets of music stamps. And so I thought, well, I can just, do that quickly. That's an easy way to fill this card. And then I wrote in the 4 major groups who use this as their home base and the date. That's it. So again, pretty easy. These went, really, really quickly. And then the facing page here, another fairly simple one. This was a card I already had, so I just checked those boxes. And then this is a cutout from, I believe it's in a creative bubble. It's one of her travel elements, so I just printed it out, used my circle punch, and then I just cut off a little bit at the top so that you could see it was overlapping. Stapled it on there. This card came exactly as you see here. This little label actually is part of the card. I did not add that. I just put in the staple, so it looked like I did. And then I stamped on that word. That's it. But I thought since it, says the Arctic here, that was a nice fit for Iceland. And then here is a longer view. So I actually took this photo before the other two, but it's a longer view from about a half a block up across the street from the Harpa. And I just got lucky. There was a yellow bus there, and so I could work in these yellow elements to match. And then this was another fun page. I wanted to keep it very light and whimsical. One of the things that they also offer in the Harpa is a musical comedy that's called Icelandic Sagas. And it's very tongue-in-cheek. It has great reviews for the humor, but it kind of goes through the history of Iceland, of the Vikings and all of that, like very quickly. I think it's only 90 minutes. And so it's for tourists. It's done in English, and it's definitely for the tourists that are coming in. We didn't have time to see it. I was kind of sad that none of the times would work for what we were doing. So my goal is to see it when I go back. And I had picked up, before the trip even, I had picked up this little guy. He's from Doodlebug. And I thought, well, he's a Viking. I have to use it for my Iceland stuff. So he made it in there. And I had this card, which I think is a Kelly Perky one from one of her kits. And so I just highlighted that it was Wednesday on this day and wrote just some quick journaling. Nothing too fancy there. The right-hand part of the layout for this one shifts a little bit. So at this point, we were already inside the Harpa. So these, what you're going to see now in the next couple pages, these are views looking outside. It sits right in a harbor area of the city, so it has spectacular views. So you can kind of see that here. So this is just looking out, one of the big windows. This is what you see. You see these beautiful mountains right across the water. It's fairly close. And then they have their harbor area. So there are several piers out there with multiple boats that were moored out there. And then a little lighthouse. So again, I was able to pull in that kind of yellowy orange because it was in this card, on this one, and I had yellow here. So it all just came together really well. I did stamp on that word in the little asterisk there, put a label on, did some stamping again. That's a Kelly Perky set. I think this one is 2, but I can't remember the name of it, but I'm pretty sure it is. And then I just did some simple journaling there. So more views from inside the Harpa. This is one of my favorites. I love how the designer just threw in panels here and there of different colored glass. So you're looking out on this fantastically beautiful harbor anyway, but then this glass kind of colors what you're seeing. And it just worked out that from where I was standing, the mast of this boat fit right in there. So I had to use that. Can't pass that up, right? And then here's kind of a view of the pier, the slips out there. So those were all empty, but many of them actually did have boats in them. And I happen to have this flare that says love the water. So yay, that was perfect. And then a little bit of journaling just about how peaceful it was to stand there and just watch the water and the boats. Very calming. So this is looking up at part of the ceiling in the Harpa, so I wanted to include that. So there's just all these reflections off that beautiful glass. And then a longer view of the harbor, again across to the mountains. So I just put a quick label on, stamped, easy peasy. And then this side, these were things that were on the walls inside the Harpa. So this kind of gives a timeline of when it was built and different performances that have happened and things. So it's in Icelandic, so you can't really read a lot of it, but it looked cool. So I wanted to put that in there. And then this is just a map. Let's see if I can get in as close as possible. So it's telling you, some different things that you can do around Reykjavik. So there's car rental, and there's glacier hiking, horse riding, jeep tours. The Golden Circle is the outer ring road that goes along the entire island. There are cruises that dock there. So there are lots of different options of things to do and see. And so I loved it that they had a map for that. And again, yellow. So it all worked that I had different yellow elements there. And yellow is not a color you think of that gets used a lot, but in these photos it actually was. And here's a little bit more in this one again, some yellow washi. So this is just, again, a different view, long view going horizontally of the harbor area. So there's that lighthouse again. But I loved that the rule of thirds was obvious here. So I have my building and the lighthouse in this third, and then the other 2/3 are taken up by the mountains, the water, and the pier. So I just put a flare badge on there, stamped a quick phrase. The only problem I had was this washi did not want to stay on this paper. This is a thick glitter paper, so it's quite coarse, and it did not want to stick. So I had to put some staples in. Those aren't just for visual effect. I mean, they work, but they're really to hold it down, because otherwise it wasn't going to stay on there. And this paper, by the way, I believe it's called Sea Glass, and it is from Close to My Heart. And they make it in black as well. I bought both. This is by far prettier, but the black is very nice as well. Now, this is one of my favorite layouts of the whole album. Again, yellow. You wouldn't think that would be a central color, but it is. And it works because here you can see there's yellow and orange glass here again. So this is from the upper deck of the Harpa, kind of looking out there. All I did was I used a rubber word. I believe that's from Studio Calico. Some paper strips I had in my stash, some little rhinestones, and then I just used a short word sticker, stamped. That's it. So again, came together super fast. The facing page here features some of the ships that were docked in the harbor. So you can see that that's a bigger vessel, obviously, than, this one. So this is the same one that I was looking at through that yellow pane of glass. I just went down a little bit and slightly lower, and then all the glass was clear. So I just got up as close as I could and shot that through the window. And I think this is a Studio Calico card as well, if I'm not mistaken. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it when I got it, because You Are My World kind of implies that you're talking about a person sometimes. And I knew I didn't want to use it for that. But I thought, this was my world at that moment, and it will stay with me forever. I mean, it was a very moving experience to go to Iceland and kind of see how they live, and that, they're right on the ocean, and what that means for their climate and their economy and that kind of stuff. And it was my world at that time. So I chose to use that one. And I just added Sail Away. And then this one I was able to bring back in some more color, because we left the Harpa then, and we decided we were going to do some more shopping and just walking the streets of the city. So that's what we're doing here. This was another element that I pre-bought. It was part of that same sticker pack that I used on the opening page for the album. So I just put that on there. I had some snowflake stickers. I thought, well, it was snowing that day, that'll work. So I put those on there. This card came this way. All I did was put on the little label here, or phrase, and staple it. And then I didn't have anything else that was going to work here, but they were split pockets. So I just cut that photo in half. I think it works. I do that quite a bit if it doesn't quite fit in, if there isn't a 4x6 slot. And most of the time, as long as, you're not cutting in the middle of somebody's face or something, it works. So I left that in there. And I have a couple of inserts here. So here's the first one. We're laughing over this because, of course, the movie. We happened to pass the Lebowski bar. Just slid this in because it matched with the roof here and this green. And in the back, more of the funky buildings. So there's a boutique in here, but then this bright, bright green building, and there's a medical building in between here. And then more colorful murals. So gotta have, love the birds in the, in the middle of a snowstorm. So I put them in there too. And then here I'm talking about how when we went on that second round of shopping and walking, we didn't last too long. It was about 30 degrees, so it said, but the wind coming off the ocean right in downtown where we were, it was absolutely brutal. We had hats, we had mittens, we had all that stuff, but it was still so incredibly cold, and just that wind hitting your face was like icicles. So we had to give up. We just couldn't be outside anymore. So I wrote about that, and then just another cool street view there. This is the last insert that I have right here. And I don't remember where I found this, if it was on the Project Life app or if it was a regular card. I don't remember, sorry. But I thought, well, that's pretty cool because that's exactly what I was doing. So I wanted to put that in there. And then I wanted to journal about the fact that our bus driver, when we came into the city, had told us about a gay bar that has awesome dancing on the weekends. And so he's like, oh, if you want to do that, you got to go there. We weren't going to be there for the weekend. But we're like, hey, that's, cool enough if we pass it, maybe we'll check it out. Who knows? So I wrote about that. And then we actually found it while we were out walking. And it was pretty funny because look at my daughter's sweatshirt. She has on a gay pride sweatshirt here. And then it matches the building. So we're like, awesome, yay. So we had to take a picture. We didn't go dancing though, sadly. It was a Wednesday in the afternoon. So not the ideal time for clubbing. So we didn't do it, but at least we found it. So had to take a picture there. And then another gorgeous building. We're just walking by and it looks like it's spray paint. I don't know if it actually is, but that's what it looks like. So I don't know if a graffiti artist did this or if they just use spray paint as their medium, but it is fantastic. Look at that. Again, I think they make their buildings colorful because their colder weather there is so dreary and they don't get a huge amount of sunshine for many months. So this is kind of nice to walk down a gray street and then see this. So all I did was I stamped just kind of random little circles here to bring in this circular element. And this was just something I had in my stash. I think it's from Citrus Twist, but can't swear by it. Just stuck a staple in there, that's it. And then these two pieces I just had in my stash. So when I'm doing these albums, I do try to use as much in my stash as I can. If I've got these little pieces left over, why not? What else am I going to do with them? All right, then we had been on a quest to find the infamous or famous, whatever you want to call it, Icelandic hot dog. We had looked for it all over the city because everyone, said in their blogs and stuff when I was researching Iceland, you got to have the Icelandic hot dog. We could not find one anywhere. So if that thing is so popular, why don't more people serve it? Because we tried. We walked into several places and nobody had it. Well, we finally found out that we could get one at the airport. So when we were there, we said, that's what we're going to have. So here it is. Looks like pretty much like a normal hot dog, a little bit longer maybe, but it is actually made out of lamb because lamb farming or ranching is a very big industry for them there. It's similar to like England and Ireland because they're an island, I'm sure. Beef is harder to come by. And so they use lamb in a lot of things. And I like lamb personally, so I was not afraid to try this. We both had it. It was delicious. So we can recommend the Icelandic hot dog. So I just cut out some little 2x2 things that I had here. This was actually from a 3x4 card, but this part worked because it was the day we were leaving. And so I thought, well, that's good. So I put that in there. And then this is from a Project Life thing that I printed from the app and just sized it down and used it as the 2x2. And I happened to have this wood veneer. So I just glued that on, called it good. And then if you thought we were done with the food, you were wrong. I love to scrap about food. And so after we had the hot dog, we were still kind of hungry. And we thought, well, we got time before our flight. What else could we try? It seems pretty standard, but we went with the fish and chips. Since fishing's a huge industry for them, we thought, well, it's got to be good, right? It was. The batter's just nice and light. And whatever kind of fish it was, probably caught. I don't know. I don't remember what their prime fish is there, but it was very good. So we shared the fish and chips also before our flight. And then we tried this drink, which looks like apple, but that's their word for orange. So it was just an orange soda. It was very good. And I just did a little journaling about that. And then random suitcase and airplane since we were in the airport. And then I just stamped that on there on a strip of white. And this background is from the Project Life app too, and I can't remember which kit it's from, but I just printed it out on photo paper, so it actually looks like it's more of a photo, and just cut it down to 2x2. That's it. So not too spectacular, but it works. And then the very last one. So this is just a brochure we got about shopping there. They do what other European countries do, where if you shop and you spend over a certain amount, you can get your tax back when you leave the airport. So I didn't buy that much that I felt like it was worth it for what I was going to get back. But my daughter bought more, and so she did choose to do it, stood in line for maybe 10 minutes, got that money back before we left. So it was a good deal for her. And then just another little map that I tucked behind there that shows the city of Reykjavik. So that's in there. And then the final page. I didn't quite know what else to do. I wanted something to show that I loved my time in Iceland, that it was a great place to go. I'd love to go back. And it was snowy, even though it was April. So I thought, I'm going to pull out the rest of these snowflake stickers. I had used some of them before. Hello, camera. There we go. They're so pretty. They're a little sparkly. So I wanted to include those on there. And I had used some of this paper in the previous flip through, so I had some left. Use that. And then I had made this card. And I thought, well, that's perfect, because I love to travel, and I feel like I left a little bit of my heart in Iceland. I really enjoyed my time there and the people, and I would love to go back. So I thought that was a fitting last page. So there you have it. This was part 2, the second half, and now my Iceland album is done. So thanks for watching this flip through. I can tell you that one of my next projects is starting my New York City album. So hopefully I'll actually make process videos of those and it won't just be a finished album, but we'll see. You never know. But at least for today, thanks for watching.